The Philippines is known for its beautiful beaches, warm hospitality, and stunning coral reefs. But did you know there are kids who look through garbage for dinner? They also have whole generations of families living in graveyards, and they start their Christmas celebrations in September. Let's explore 15 of the most shocking facts about the Philippines that would leave you completely speechless. Number 15. Dumpster diving for food. Garbage recycling is pretty common in the world, but in the Philippines, it takes on a new flavor, quite literally. Leftovers in the trash are sorted, cooked, and served again as a new dish. This is sold by many street vendors in Manila, where it is known as pagpag, which means recycled. However, the sad thing about pagpag is that it was born out of necessity rather than a tradition. A survey from 2021 estimated that almost 20 million Filipinos were below the poverty line, and they couldn't even afford one meal a day. This problem only rose as the food prices have increased relentlessly over the last few years. Leftovers from the trash are collected by mediators, who then sell them based on their quality. These mediators usually strike a deal with an employee of a restaurant or fast food chain. Bad or rotten food has to be separated from the more salvageable ones. Needless to say, there are no masks or gloves to help time in this race against time, because the sorting has to be done quickly enough to avoid more food from going bad. Rice and vegetables are set aside to be sold as animal feeds. Chewed off meat and chicken bones are then sold to the pagpag vendors. They wash and boil these pieces in water first. Then they either refry the leftovers or season them with vegetables and spices to make a stew. The dish is usually served with rice. Sometimes pagpag vendors also sell leftover pizza slices or spaghetti to the slums of the Philippines. Would you try pagpag in the Philippines? Let us know in the comments. Number 14. Graveyard living. Being poor in the Philippines means that there is no place for the people to live in. They simply cannot afford to buy or rent out property, and the government doesn't do anything to help them out either. So, Filipinos have turned to cemeteries for shelter. Thousands of people live in the graveyards of Manila and Cebu. A few of these people were employed by the relatives of the dead to look after their graves. However, for their services, these people get paid around $8 to $10 a year, which is hardly enough to pay rent. As times got tougher, more and more people started showing up seeking shelter. Now, there are whole generations living in these graveyards. They also have to mostly look out for themselves, and the community is largely based on trust. They look after each other and support themselves in any way they can. People have built houses and abandoned mausoleums, and they have even set up community centers and schools for their children. The bones of the dead are removed, and they are often scattered right outside their makeshift houses. Most of the people living in the graveyards set up stalls or work as masons to support themselves. Whatever meager money they get is spent mostly on food. Saying that life is tough for them would be an understatement. And to make matters worse, the government also plans to demolish the cemeteries for other projects. They are waiting for a miracle to happen, but that doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon. Number 13. Ritual circumcision. In the Philippines, it is almost mandatory for all boys to get circumcised. This is known as tuli in their local language. The origins of this tradition are unclear, but it is considered to be a rite of passage to manhood. Some say that the practice comes from Islamic custom before the arrival of Christianity in the region. According to reports, over 90% of Filipino males are circumcised by traditional or medical procedures. A medically untrained circumciser performs the procedure on boys between the ages of 8 and 12. These boys have to first soak themselves in the river to soften the foreskin. They also chew guava leaves, which are later applied to the wound to reduce blood loss. The procedure is carried out using a knife and a wooden piece to drive it through the foreskin. These days, registered physicians perform the circumcisions using local anesthesia, but there are rural areas in which tuli is carried out in the traditional way. The majority of the boys undergoing the procedure often report complications. The boys are still willing to endure the pain because they don't want to be called supat. The word implies homosexuality and cowardice. Some believe that the practice has advantages like increased height and physical fitness. It also makes them more desirable to women. Number 12. Duck egg aphrodisiac. Fertilized duck eggs are a late-night snack in the Philippines. Vendors can be seen roaming the streets or set up on stalls once the sun sets. Locally known as balut, these fertilized eggs are cheap and rich in protein, so they are ideal for workers after a long day, or for partiers looking for a good time. Some people consider it to be a great aphrodisiac, and often consume them to improve their sexual performance. However, almost no one would rather see what they are eating, as these eggs are essentially just unborn, premature birds. To eat balut, the narrow end of the shell has to be cracked first. This allows for the warm soup inside the egg to be sipped first. Then the remainder of the egg is seasoned with salt and vinegar before being eaten whole. As the eggs get older, they tend to contain more developed ducklings with bones and beaks. These are harder to eat, and some portions have to be even discarded. If the balut is too young, then the embryo can be seen floating on top of the white and the yolk. These two are eaten, but they are far less popular. The sellers have to be careful about the development stage of the balut, so they purchase duck eggs on the day they are laid and incubate them for 2 to 3 weeks. Once the incubation time has been completed, the eggs are then boiled and sold to customers. Do you dare to eat unborn ducklings? Share your thoughts below. Number 11, superstition with staircases. The Filipinos are really sensitive about their staircases, and the oro, plata, mata superstition is very common even today. The Spanish phrase means gold, silver, and death. The belief is that staircases could not be constructed in multiple of 3s. This means that there are no staircases with 3, 6, 9, or 12 steps. The first step is oro, or gold, the second is plata, or silver, and the third one is mata, or death. Then the pattern repeats for the following steps on the staircase. If the stairs end with either oro or plata, it is said to bring great fortune, but if the final step is mata, then it attracts bad fortune to everyone around. While a lot of people may dismiss the belief, there are many who would rather include this superstition when building or buying a home. No one actually knows where this belief comes from. Some people say that it was originally a Chinese superstition, but according to Chinese beliefs, the number 4 is viewed as bad. Others say that it obviously came from the Spanish, because the phrase is in Spanish, and the Philippines was a colony for over 3 centuries. Number 10, largest exporter of nurses. Filipino nurses can be found around the world today, and the reason for that is simple. It is because they were trained by the United States. Back when the Philippines was a colony of the US, women were allowed to get quality education under American programs. They were even given study abroad opportunities in the United States, and some even stayed for work after completing their education. During the 1960s, it became difficult to recruit American women in professions like nursing, social work, and education. This is when the boom of Filipino nurses began once again in the US. Due to a combination of lack of work opportunities in the Philippines and better pay in the US, Filipino women started arriving in large numbers in America. The Philippines saw this as an opportunity and established an organization for the recruitment and employment of workers overseas. This ready-made program was ideal for other countries looking to fulfill staff needs in healthcare. Today, almost 25% of nurses who come from overseas are from the Philippines. They are scattered all over Europe, America, Australia, and even the Middle East. However, this exodus of trained medical staff has taken its toll on the Philippines. According to estimates, they are short by thousands of nurses, but Filipino women are not too enthusiastic about working in their own country. This is mainly because the pay isn't as good, and the benefits are essentially non-existent. Number 9, monkey-eating eagles. The Philippines is home to the largest eagles in the world. Even though they do not exclusively eat monkeys, the name has stuck. These giant birds have been known to hunt civets, bats, squirrels, and even owls. As apex predators, these eagles keep the rainforest ecosystem in check. Monkey-eating eagles are something out of folklore, with an average wingspan of 7 feet and a height of almost 3 feet. They have a majestic plumage of long, brown feathers, with whites on the belly and chest. Their blue-gray eyes allow them to see 8 times more clearly than humans, and they have a high arching beak with powerful talons that help them in hunting. Even though the monkey-eating eagles may be thought of as being purely vicious, they mate for life when paired. The male and the female present their talons to each other during the courtship, and then they build their nest together. They lay one egg every 2 years, and it is incubated by both parents alternately. They make sure that their offspring is independent before mating again. These beautiful creatures can only be found on 4 islands in the Philippines, but the majority is populated in Mindanao Island. They too have been tragically affected by deforestation and habitat loss. Furthermore, lack of easy prey means that they have to hunt for larger animals, which poses more threat to them. Flying through the dense forest can lead to injuries which might get infected, or even hinder their ability to fly. As this is the national bird of the Philippines, the authorities are aware of the threat to their species. There are several projects underway to help conserve their habitat. Number 8. Hunter-gatherers versus giant snakes. The Philippines is home to one of the last remaining tribes of hunter-gatherers called the Agta Negritos. Even though most of them have now settled in villages, there are some who still live nomadic lives in the lush forests of Luzon Island. They usually band together in small groups, sleep in temporary shelters, and forage the rainforest for food. The most interesting thing about these people was that they regularly got into skirmishes with the reticulated python. This is the longest known snake in the world and can grow up to more than 30 feet in length. They may not weigh as much as the green anacondas of South America, but they can still go up 350 pounds. Reticulated pythons mostly preyed on smaller animals like monkeys or pigs, but the Agta people have reported that they too were attacked frequently by these gigantic beasts. These hunter-gatherers didn't hold back either, and they usually carried large knives or homemade shotguns to fend off the snakes. There have also been reports of fatalities among the Agta. The most chilling tale was about a python who was found after devouring 2 children. The father found the snake in the process of consuming the 3rd child head first and killed it on the spot. The Agta were equally threatening to the snakes, as they ate pythons whenever they could. The hunter-gatherers usually hunted smaller pythons, but there have been cases of them killing 20-foot monstrosities. The snakes were a valuable source of food for them because pythons are not toxic to eat, they don't run away, and can be easily dealt with once spotted. Number 7. Island with more volcanoes than towns. The Philippines lies on the Pacific Ring of Fire and has over 300 volcanoes. Some of them have been pretty active in recent years as well. But the strangest thing about the country is that it has 7 volcanoes on a very small island. Camiguin is only 14 miles in length and 8.5 miles in width. It has only 5 towns on it, which are outnumbered by the volcanoes. In fact, the island has more volcanoes per square mile than any other island on the planet. The island is located in the Bohol Sea and looks like something from a magazine. It is known for its pear shape and sweet landzone fruits. The number of volcanoes on the island has given it the nickname Island Born of Fire. Fortunately, most of these volcanoes are now considered to be dormant, and the last eruption was in 1953. But Mount Hibak-Hibak is still active, and it is responsible for the bubbling hot springs on the island. Number 6. Longest underground river. The Puerto Princesa underground river is one of the largest in the world. It has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new 7 wonders of nature. The river system here is said to be created millions of years ago. It flows below the St. Paul mountain range, and as the water channeled through the rocks, the cave system was also created. They stretch out for about 15 miles under the mountain range, and it makes it one of the most impressive sites in the world. Explorers also discovered that there is a second floor to the underground river, due to which there are several small waterfalls inside the cave. There are also cave domes, more river channels, rock formations, and several types of animal species. Deeper parts of the underground river are difficult to explore due to the lack of oxygen. The river is a complete mountain to the sea ecosystem, and it provides shelter to many endemic species of mammals and sea creatures. That is also why it is such a protected site and a source of pride for the Philippines. The Puerto Princesa underground river emerges from the sea, which makes it tidal. This means that the park is closed off in excessive rain or bad weather. This also results in brackish water for half of the river. It is truly one of its kind in the world. Number 5. The country with 2 flags. The Philippines is the only country in the world with 2 separate flags. One can tell whether the country is at war or peace by just looking at the flag. The current design was first unveiled in 1898 after General Emilio Aguinaldo returned from exile in Hong Kong. The flag itself is composed of a white triangle with a sun surrounded by 3 golden stars. The sun has 8 primary rays, which represent the 8 original provinces that rebelled against the Spanish during the 1896 6 revolution. These stars represent the 3 main principal islands where the Spanish Revolution started. Luzon is in the north, Panay in the center, and Mindanao in the south. The flag also has strips of red and blue fields. During times of peace, the flag is flown with blue on the top, and during war, it is turned upside down with red on top. But the last time the red band was at the top was during the Second World War, when the nation was in a heated conflict with Japan. Number 4. Strange history of karaoke. Although a Japanese musician called Daisuke came up with the concept of karaoke, it was the Filipino Roberto del Rosario who patented the technology in 1975. As a result, karaoke is one of the most popular activities in the Philippines. Almost every home has a karaoke machine or a digital mic that can turn the TV into a karaoke machine. Lots of restaurants and bars in the Philippines also have karaoke. Some even have videoke, which records people's performances and gives them a score. With this fun activity, there is also a lot of drinking involved. It gives the people that Dutch courage to get on the mic and sing their hearts out. But it also means that drunk people often get into fights. And in the Philippines, it has a lot to do with singing itself. New York Times reported that between 2002 and 2012, there were almost 6 people killed in what came to be known as My Way killings. This was because people were singing Frank Sinatra's song My Way on the karaoke machines, and the others thought they were simply off-key. In 2007, a security guard shot and killed a man because he simply couldn't stand him butchering the song. Due to these incidents, people now avoid performing the song altogether. Number 3. Sea Gypsies. The Bajau people are known as the Sea Gypsies of the Philippines. They live mostly on boats and rarely ever step foot on solid ground. According to legend, these people were sent out by a king to rescue his daughter from a sea storm. But because they couldn't find the princess, the Bajau people chose to live on the seas to avoid the king's wrath. They are now a tribe without a country, even though they originally belonged to an island in the Philippines. The government refuses to recognize them as Filipino citizens, and the same is the case with other countries in the region. As a result, the Bajau tribe is mostly illiterate, as they can't apply to schools or colleges without a valid passport. Living on the sea for generations has given them some biological advantages, though. A 2018 study showed that the Sea Gypsies have spleens that are 50% larger than that of a regular human. This allows them to store hemoglobin-rich blood, which is released when they are diving. They also have better vision underwater and can regulate the blood flow in their body to avoid accumulation of carbon dioxide in the blood. Reports from travelers during the European colonial era say that these people were once pirates, but these days they are peace-loving, cheerful people. They are expert divers and know the surrounding water better than anyone else. The Bajau rely on marine creatures for food, and since they have no concept of modern currency, they engage in trading activities with nearby settlements. Number 2. Biggest fans of the Pope. The Philippines is one of the few Christian nations in Asia and has the 5th largest Christian population in the world. The Spanish colonization in the 1500s really left a mark on the people here. These days, almost 86% of the population is Catholic, and another 8% practices other branches of Christianity. When Pope Francis visited the Philippines in 2015, there were millions of people who attended his Mass. But the biggest one came on January 18th in Luneta Park, held during the Feast of Santo Niño. Estimates are that there were around 6 to 7 million Filipinos gathered for the Mass. It was declared to be the highest recorded papal gathering in history. After the Mass, the crowd sang the 1995 World Youth Day anthem, Tell the World of His Love, followed by the official theme song of the visit, We Are All God's Children. The second largest papal crowd was also gathered in the Philippines. This was in 1995, when Pope John Paul II held Mass at World Youth Day for 5 million people at Luneta Park. The Filipinos really love it when the Pope graces them with a visit. Number 1. Christmas in September. The holiday season lives up to its name in the Philippines. Most of the population in the country is Christian, so it automatically makes Christmas the most celebrated holiday. Festivities are held during the bear months, so they start in September, but they do not end in December. Celebrations stretch out to the first week of January. People start picking out their Christmas lanterns in September, and Christmas carols can be heard right after All Saints' Day on November 1st. However, some believe this is done to attract people to the malls. The Philippines has some some of the biggest malls in the entire world, and these early celebrations are to herd people into shopping. While this may be condemned in other countries, Filipinos embrace it entirely. For them, it is a time of celebration and joy. They believe in sharing happiness with everyone around them. Most families have at least one member living and working abroad, so it means that they get to meet them after a long and difficult year. Estimates are that more than 2.2 million Filipinos are living abroad, and they bring in almost $30 billion back home each year. Many of the devoted Christians also engage in the tradition of Simbang Gabi. This is a series of pre-dawn masses that lasts for 9 days, leading up to Christmas Eve. The practice was first said to be introduced by Spanish missionaries in the 17th century. This is the true mark of the start of Christmas in the Philippines. The celebration officially ends with the Feast of the Three Kings in January. That's all that we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed this video. Click on the screen for more content like this. See you in the next one.